Today I'm bringing you my March TBR, which also happens to be the first TBR that I'm making in 2026. I decided to take a couple of months off at the start of the year because I wanted to focus on finishing the Malazan Book of the Fallen series, which I have now done. So at some point there will be a series review up on the channel. I don't know when that's going to be, when I'm going to have time to film it, but that should be coming soon. And it means that I can now bring back TBRs. I'm not bringing back my TBR game for now. I've decided to semi-retire it. I might still use it for reading vlogs and things like that, but I have so many vlog ideas right now that I'm really excited about, so I don't see the point in adding a TBR game TBR on top of that when I already have a rough idea of what I want to read. And my main goal for March is to focus on the Reddit fantasy bingo board. If you don't know, this is a reading challenge that originated on Reddit, and the idea is that you have 12 months to complete as many prompts as possible. I'll leave a link to all the details in the description, but I have, at the time of filming, I think I have about 5 or 6 prompts that I have left to complete, so that's going to be my main focus for the start of March, and that's what I want to be talking about in this video. I've got a few options for various squares. If you've read any of the books that I'm about to talk about, then please let me know in the comments what you thought of them, if you would recommend them, because for certain prompts I have a couple of options that I'm considering. My main thing is that I don't want to be starting too many series all at once. I am planning for my next reading vlog after I've finished the Reddit Fantasy Bingo. My next reading vlog is probably going to be continuing a series, but obviously I don't want to be starting 5 or 6 in one go because that's just going to be too overwhelming. One of the first prompts I don't think is going to be too difficult to find a standalone for, and that is published in the 80s. The original TBR that I made back in April last year, I mentioned possibly reading an Octavia Butler book for this. However, I think I've read all of her standalones now, or at least her standalones that were published in the 80s. I know that she has a series called the Patternist series, and I don't know whether those books are like standalones but within a series. I need to do a little more research, but the 3 books that I've read by Octavia Butler I did really enjoy. I think I gave all of them 5 stars, so it would make sense to go for something else by Octavia Butler. But I've also been looking into Toni Morrison. I think she has quite a few books that were published in the 80s, and I do want to try and get hard mode for this, which is to read a book by an author of colour. The next prompt I have is epistolary, which I actually have too many options for and it's feeling a bit overwhelming. I think the book that I originally put on my TBR was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I do have this on my Kindle, so it would be nice to read a book that I already own, but it's the start of a series and I don't know whether like I've said, I'm not really feeling that right now. Another option I was thinking about was The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones, which I think is a historical vampire horror. I actually started the audiobook for this and I got about 15 to 20 minutes in and thought, I don't feel like I'm taking this in. I think this is one that I'm going to have to read physically because Stephen Graham Jones does have a more literary style of writing. I don't own it physically though, so I would have to buy it, which again, trying to avoid buying too many books right now. A classic that I've seen recommended is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which I've never read, and I think Dracula also would count for that, but again, I don't know what I'm in the mood for right now. Am I in the mood for a classic? I've also seen When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill would fit the regular mode for this. It wouldn't fit hard mode, which is the entire book has to be written in an epistolary format. Apparently that has some multimedia and it's one that's been on my TBR for ages. That one is speculative fiction, I think set in the 1950s or 60s. Loads of women spontaneously turn into dragons, and I think it's kind of a feminist story, and is one that I almost read towards the end of last year but didn't get round to. So I think I'm leaning most towards that one, but I'm gonna see how I'm feeling in the moment because, as I might have said, I'm filming a reading vlog where I try and complete this challenge, and I'm using a random way to choose what order I read the prompts. It's kind of mood reading, but also a little bit of structure because I can't just mood read anymore. It actually really stresses me out making decisions, so I need to have some structure but not so much where I'm limited. This next prompt, I don't think I put anything on my original TBR for this. It's small press or self-published, and you know what's the problem is that there's too many books that I become interested in that then get picked up and traditionally published, and it doesn't count if the book has been picked up and trad published. It has to still be either a small press or self self-published at the time that you're reading it. Potentially I could lean into romantasy with this. There's a sapphic romantasy that I've been recommended, which is called Woodbourne by Heather Nix. This is a romantasy between a witch and a faun. Sounds like it's also got pirates in it. It says here that the line between good and evil is tested as the continent prepares for an epic battle, and it sounds like it's going to have found family and things like that. Also religious trauma. The reviews look great. Apparently it's got good world building, a fast moving plot, and solid character writing. Also, this is a duet, so it doesn't feel like a huge commitment. I'm not committing to like a really long series. I've also been looking back through some of the winners of the SBFBO awards, because that, if you don't know, is self-published. I think it stands for Self-Published Fantasy Blog Off, and it's a competition for self-published authors. On my list from some of the past winners, I've got Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater, which I think is still self-published. I know that Olivia Atwater has a few books that have been traditionally published, but I think that one is still self-published. Murder at Spindle Manor by Morgan Stang won a few years ago, and that's a fantasy detective murder mystery, which sounds like something I would really enjoy. The one thing that's put me off is I tried a book by this author a few years ago. I can't remember the name of it. I think it was The Bookshop and the Barbarian, which is like a cozy fantasy, and I DNF'd it after a few chapters because I did not like the writing style. I think this is on KU though, so I could always download it, try it, and then see how I'm feeling before I continue. Recycle a Bingo Square is the next prompt that I sort of have on my list. I'm struggling a little bit with this one because I'm sure that there's a book that I've read in the past year that I haven't used a prompt for that I could use for this square. I just need to go back through previous bingo boards and retrospectively try and find a prompt that would fit, but I feel like that's not really in the spirit of the square, so I don't know. I think this might be one where whenever it comes up in the read and vlog, I'm just going to decide in the moment what I do. If it comes up right near the end, if I'm running out of time, I'll do what I just said. I'll find a book that will already fit for this and a prompt that will already fit with that book. I don't want to make things too difficult for myself, but also I don't want to feel like I'm not being true to the square and the spirit of the square. Generic title is one that sounds like it's going to be really easy, but for me it seems to be really difficult. The idea behind this square is that you read a book where the title contains a popular word that you often find in fantasy book titles. For example, blood, bone, broken, court, dark, shadow, song, sword, or throne, and the plural is also allowed. The book that I initially put on my TBR was The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, and if I can't find an alternative, then that is the one that I'm going to go with. This is a trilogy, or it's the first book in a trilogy, and I've heard it's political fantasy, which I do tend to love. That's my favourite type of fantasy. However, if I can find a standalone instead, then maybe I'll go with that. I've read a lot of the popular ones, like I've heard ML Wong's books recommended quite a lot, Blood Over Brighthaven and The Sword of Kygan. I've read both of those and gave them both 5 stars, so if I hadn't read them already, then either of those would have been perfect for this prompt. But do let me know if you have any recommendations for this one, because I think this is one for some reason that I'm really struggling to find a standalone for. Then the final prompt is pirates, and I did initially have a different book in for this one. I've shuffled some things around because there were some prompts that I was really struggling with, but for this I've recently, I actually own the book, let me just grab it. I recently received an ARC for Hell's Heart by Alexis Hall, which is coming out in March, I believe. Yeah, it is, it's got it on the spine. This I think will hit hard mode for this prompt. The other book that I had in for this square only fit easy mode, but hard mode is to read a book that has non-seafaring pirates, and I think this would count for space pirates. Basically the tagline is Sapphic Moby Dick in space, and does that not sound really intriguing? Oh, it's actually got the release date on the back. It comes out on the 12th of March if you are interested, but this has also been compared to Gideon the Ninth and the Wayfarers series by Becky Chambers, which if you don't know, I recently finished the Wayfarers series and loved it, so very excited to get to this one. Those are the books that I'm considering for the R Fantasy Bingo Challenge, but I do also also have a couple of new releases that are on my radar that I might try and get to in March. The first of which is Her Last Breath by Taylor Adams. I am so excited for this. I've already seen reviews calling it one of the best thrillers of the years, people giving it 5 stars, and having read 2 of Taylor Adams' books in the past, I feel like I know what to expect with this one. I'm expecting it to be fast-paced, I'm expecting it to be twist after twist after twist, I'm expecting it to be really like stressful. I feel like that's what Taylor Adams does so well, is the characters are so stressed out and, you know, they're in dangerous situations, and this one is no different. It follows a main character who goes caving with one of her friends, and I think they get trapped down there, and then there's a guy that is also there with them, and I feel like I don't need to know much more than that, okay? It sold me trapped in a cave. It sounds so claustrophobic, so tense, and I'm really excited for it. I am gonna ask my partner if he wants to buddy read this with me, because we buddy read the last Taylor Adams book together and it was really fun. I think we finished it in like a few hours. It was one of those one sitting reads, and I think that Taylor Adams does that so well. Her Last Breath, I'm pretty sure, is out already. I think it came out in February, whereas this next book doesn't come out until the end of March, but I have the audiobook saved on BookBeat. I really enjoyed this author's other book, which I also listened to via audio. Celestial Lights by Cecile Pin, I think is speculative, and it sounds quite different to Wandering Souls by this author. Wandering Souls, I think it did have a bit of a speculative twist. I think it had a character that was a ghost, but that to me felt firmly historical, whereas Celestial Lights sounds like literary sci-fi. I think it's set in space and it follows an astronaut. I think we're following a main character who is in space and they are reflecting on their life. It sounds like it's going to be a character study. It says here, a breathtaking tale of memory, personal choices, and the relationships that define us. So sounds like it might be quite moving and poignant, but I'm very excited to give it a go. That does bring me to the end of this TBR, so thank you for watching. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. Let me know any books that are on your March TBR, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Click subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye.